I once saw an American in London try to pay for a bus ticket with a coupon from Starbucks. He waved it proudly at the driver and said, "It works everywhere in the US, why not here?" The driver just stared. The entire bus went silent. Finally, the American shrugged and muttered, "Well, maybe they just need a better app." And that's when I realized, confidence doesn't need logic, it just needs an audience. I once saw an American in London confidently telling a British historian that Shakespeare probably copied his plays from early Hollywood scripts. He said it with such conviction that even the pigeons in Trafalgar Square paused mid-bite. The historian tried to clarify that Shakespeare had died centuries before Hollywood existed, but the American just smiled and said, "Exactly, imagine how ahead of his time he was." He wasn't joking. He truly believed he had just uncovered a genius historical secret, like unlocking a time travel paradox purely through confidence. At a pub in Manchester, an American man ordered a pint, then refused to drink it until it was chilled properly. When the bartender explained that British beer isn't meant to be ice cold, the man looked genuinely offended. "So you just drink it warm? Like soup?" he asked. The bartender replied calmly, "Yes, sir. It's called flavor." The American sipped reluctantly. "You guys really need to learn from Bud Light," he said. The pub fell silent. Not in anger, but in collective mourning. Outside Buckingham Palace, an American tourist tried convincing the guards that the monarchy was mostly for marketing purposes. "You should totally sell royal memberships like Amazon Prime, but for subjects," he said. When his friend explained that's not how a constitutional monarchy works, he doubled down. "Yeah, but if it's not making money, what's the point?" A nearby British woman whispered, "The point is history." He replied, "Well, history doesn't trend." There's a fascinating pattern in these moments. Confidence becomes a kind of armor. It's not about being right, it's about feeling certain in a confusing world. American culture trains people to sell that certainty, even without full understanding. In Britain, humility acts as social oil. Overconfidence is comedy. That's why these encounters hit so hard. They aren't battles of knowledge. They are battles of cultural rhythm. One side values assertion, the other, irony. Put them together, and you get a masterclass in polite chaos. In Edinburgh, an Ohio student told his Scottish professor that British spelling must be exhausting. "You mean color and honor?" the professor asked, raising an eyebrow. "Exactly," said the student. "So unnecessary. Imagine how much ink you'd save without those extra letters." The professor smiled. "We had the ink first." The student paused, unsure if it was a joke or a declaration of war. At a London cafe, I overheard a man telling the barista, "You guys should try drip coffee. It's more advanced than your little teapots." The barista smiled like a saint. "We've had tea culture for 400 years, she said. The man shrugged. "Exactly. Time for an upgrade." The barista leaned in. "You can't improve what you don't understand." That line should be engraved on every British passport. Then there was the woman in Bath who suggested a local museum rename the Roman baths to British spas, rebranded. When the guide explained the baths were nearly 2,000 years old, she frowned. "Wow. And you still haven't added Wi-Fi?" For a moment the centuries of empire, invention and irony collapsed into one sentence. The guide simply nodded. "We prefer steam." At a train station in York, an American couple stared at the departure board. "How come you don't have Amtrak here?" they complained. A British man nearby said, "Because we invented trains." They looked at each other, then back at him. "Yeah, but not the good kind," the husband replied. The man folded his newspaper. "You're standing on the tracks of history, mate." In Oxford, an American student argued that British sarcasm is bad communication. "If you mean something, just say it. Why hide behind irony?" he asked his British roommate. The roommate sipped tea. "Because it's fun watching people who don't get it." The American blinked. "So you're joking about not joking?" "Exactly," said the roommate. "It was the first time I saw someone lose a battle without realizing it had already ended." A tourist in Liverpool once tried correcting a local musician playing the Beatles. "You're doing it wrong, man. The chords sound different on Spotify," he said. The musician paused, stared, then replied, "I'll take it up with John next time I see him." The tourist nodded, completely missing the sarcasm. It was like a cultural ping-pong match with only one paddle. At a London restaurant, an American woman complained about British politeness. "The waiter didn't even ask for my first name. In the States we build relationships," she said. The waiter, overhearing, approached calmly. "Would you prefer we become emotionally attached before dessert?" She froze. No. I just meant." He smiled. "Exactly. That moment should be in a museum, titled When Manners Become Martial Arts." These moments reveal something deeper than comedy. British politeness isn't shyness. It's subtle power. Silence, understatement, timing. Sharper than words. American confidence is loud because it's rewarded. At school, in business, in life. When these worlds meet, it's not ignorance clashing, it's cultural incentives. In America, certainty earns respect. In Britain, suspicion. That's why humor confuses one side while the other thinks they're winning. At a London museum, an American visitor stared at the Rosetta Stone. "So did you buy this from Egypt, or just borrow it forever?" The guide said, "Extended loan." The visitor nodded. "Ah, like Netflix but with artifacts." The guide smiled faintly. "Except the subscription never ends." History had never sounded so passive-aggressive. In Cornwall, an American family asked a farmer for directions to Walmart. "We've got a Tesco," he said. "Is that like a smaller franchise?" they asked. "No," he replied. "It's like reality." They drove off, still confused, probably thinking they discovered the British Area 51. At a London crosswalk, an American yelled at a driver, "You're on the wrong side of the road." The driver rolled down his window. "Technically, you're on the wrong side of the country." For a second, even traffic paused to admire the logic. The American muttered, "I just don't get how you people manage." The driver smiled. With practice and mirrors. In Brighton, an American influencer tried to film a British breakfast hack, dumping beans, eggs, and bacon into a blender. Her face twisted. The Queen herself had cursed her. A local commented, "We usually chew it, love." "I was trying to modernize it," she said. "Some things don't survive modernization," he shrugged. At a tea room in Cambridge, an American told the owner he could make tea faster with a Keurig. She smiled politely. "And lose your soul faster too," he proudly explained. "It makes it in under 30 seconds. "Yes, dear, we've been taking 5 minutes for 300 years. It's called civilization." He nodded, pretending to understand. "So do you microwave it if it gets cold?" Her teacup trembled. "That, sir, is how wars start." At a London art gallery, an American tourist stood before a Turner painting. "It's nice, but it needs more contrast," he said. The curator asked, "You mean the light and shadow?" "No, like a filter. Something cinematic. I edit photos for Instagram. I know color." The curator whispered, "So did Turner." Somewhere, the artist probably turned over, perfectly, with the ideal gradient. At a countryside inn, Americans refused to queue for breakfast. "We're on vacation. Lines don't apply to us," they said. A British man behind them replied softly, "Lines apply to everyone. That's why they work." They laughed, thinking it a joke. He wasn't. Silent judgment forced them to apologize within 2 minutes. Here's the thing about British politeness. It's not passive, it's strategic. Americans see awkwardness, but it's how the British maintain control without raising their voice. Every sorry is a reminder of hierarchy. Every cheers carries centuries of social code. Silence feels weak to Americans, noise feels chaotic to Brits. When these energies collide, it isn't conflict. It's a live performance of misunderstanding. Both sides leave convinced they were reasonable. At a London bookstore, an American woman told a clerk, "You should stock more self-help books. People here are too quiet." The clerk smiled. "We keep our issues private. Cheaper than therapy. But don't you want to improve yourselves?" "We did," he said. She blinked. 1066. History? Sarcasm? Both. During dinner in Bristol, An American insisted Brits' fake accents to sound smarter. Yes, free at birth, a woman said, with our healthcare. He nodded, impressed. Quiet lines cut the deepest. At Stonehenge, an American said, "So like your Mount Rushmore?" The guide looked exhausted. "Older than your country by 4,000 years. Cool. But why no faces?" "Imagination," said the guide. Tourist whispered to his wife, "See, no marketing here." In London, a young American complained Brits never get to the point. "Back home, we close deals fast. Here, people talk in circles." "Because we're deciding if you're worth talking to," a colleague replied. He laughed, until realizing the conversation was over. Efficiency cannot replace grace. It only exposes its absence. In Hyde Park, an American jogger asked, "Do you have personal trainers here or just walk?" "We walk. It's called not being bankrupt," a man said. The jogger laughed, then noticed they weren't joking. "In America, fitness is lifestyle," he said. "Here, it's transport." He ran off, faster, not for exercise but realization. At a Bristol pub quiz, an American team challenged answers. "We Googled it." "You're wrong." The host leaned in. "I wrote the question, mate." They doubled down. "Our source says otherwise." Silence. Then someone yelled, "Wikipedia again?" Even the walls sighed. At Windsor Castle, an American woman asked if guards were actors. "No, soldiers," said the guide. "Real soldiers? Standing all day?" "Exactly. Advanced choreography. 1,000 ancestors collectively facepalmed." At a seaside cafe, Americans sent back fish and chips. "They're undercooked," they complained. The waiter calmly explained, "They're chips. Soft is intended." "Well, they taste wrong." "That's geography," he said. "In America they'd never serve them like this." And yet here we are, surviving. All these moments reveal something beautiful. Confidence is universal. Humility travels better. American instinct to improve clashes with British instinct to preserve. Not ignorance. Identity. Both cultures prove themselves, when really they're just proving they exist. Between freedom fries and sorries, humanity is hilarious. Beneath every awkward smile, every overconfident claim, people just want to matter, even if it means being wrong loudly.